You liar! Kill him!
And we also see that simultaneously his enemy threatens him with fire. This is why the hadith also tells us that the Dajjal will threaten us with a fake fire.
Stop him!
So far, his enemy seems to be symbolic of the Dajjal, and Harry Potter symbolic as the Muslims who will oppose the Dajjal. However, it is not just his enemy who is a liar, but Harry Potter himself is also a liar.
What is it? What do you see?
I'm shaking hands with Dumbledore. I've won the House Cup.
He lies. Tell the truth! What do you see?
I've won the House Cup.
He lies. Tell the truth!
So you see, both characters are liars and both of them are sorcerers. However, you don't suspect Harry Potter of being the same as his enemy in the first movie, as he is just a child and therefore appears innocent and good, and only his enemy acts as an evil villain.
But how do I get it? Use the boy. Come here, Potter! Now!
Also, his enemy is wearing a turban, which is of course also associated with Muslims. So although the bad guy represents the Dajjal, he also represents the Muslims or Muslims. However, we must also remember that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that the Dajjal will appear in the east and specifically in Muslim lands, and that his followers will be the people of Isfahan or Isfahan. So it is possible that the Dajjal will actually wear a turban, just as the Dajjal worshipping Shias, the Shia clerics who worship the Dajjal, also wear turbans. But from a Western perspective, turbans are associated with Islam. So although the movie could be telling something true about the Dajjal, it still has an anti-Muslim, anti-Arab subliminal effect on the audience. So the movie is giving you a choice between the bad guy who represents Dajjal and the good guy Harry Potter who also represents Dajjal. So you can choose between Dajjal and Dajjal, Shaitan and Shaitan, sorcerer and sorcerer, Sahir and Sahir. It is like the elections where they give you the false choice between Bush and Obama, the Democrats versus the Republicans. Or in international politics, where they give you the false choice between capitalism and communism, Shiism and Zionism, Iran and Israel, Russia and America. But in all these cases, both choices are the same, and the two sides only pretend to oppose each other while fully cooperating at all times and just shouting slogans at each other and calling each other names. You must also remember that it is stated in the hadith that there will be 30 Dajjals. There are some on the internet, there are some people on the internet today who want to fool us into thinking that there will only be one Dajjal, and they insist that this one Dajjal will be blind in the right eye and not in the left eye. There is actually a very satanic agenda behind these fake conspiracy theories that are clearly contradicting the hadith. One such example is Imran Hosein, who claims that the Dajjal will come from the west, even though it is narrated in Sahih Muslim that he is in the east, and it is narrated in Musnad Ahmad that he will rise from the east with an army with faces like shields, and from Isfahan, which is in Iran. However, Imran Hosein claims, without any evidence, that the Dajjal will actually rise from the west.
There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim we call the hadith of Tamim Udari, which gives us the answer. We don't have the time to give you that hadith in detail, but you go into the book and you find it. The hadith informs us that when Dajjal is released on earth, he's going to be on an island, number one. Number two, the island will be about 1 month's journey by sea from the Arab world. Number three, the island will be an island that conceals its true identity. Number four, the island will be an island that specializes in spying and espionage. I want to go back and study British history one more time, as I am doing now. Go back and re-study all that I studied before. Re-study it now. I come to the conclusion that the island is Britain. That when Dajjal is released on an earth in a day which is like a year and commences his mission to impersonate the Messiah, is from Britain.
And he also constantly insists that the Dajjal will be blind in the right eye. And he claims that in Islam, the right eye represents goodness and the left eye represents evil. This is actually a lie. In fact, most Sahih narrations state that the Dajjal will be blind in the left eye. But we also have a hadith in Sahih Muslim, another version of the hadith, that says he will be blind in the right eye. So if there was only one Dajjal, it would be more likely that he would be blind in the left eye, since the evidence for that is much stronger. So the question is, why does Imran Hosein insist that it's the other way around?
Dajjal sees with his left eye. He is blind in the right eye. Dajjal sees with one eye, his left eye.
Of course, it is likely that there will be a Dajjal who will be blind in the right eye, and another Dajjal who will be blind in the left. Remember that there will be 30 Dajjals, so these narrations could be referring to different Dajjals. It is also possible that one of the 30 Dajjals will rise from the west. Although there is no evidence for this from the hadith, it could be that Imran Hosein is actually right about this. However, the question is, why does he deny all the strong evidence and all the ahadith, Sahih ahadith, about the rising of a Dajjal from the east? And why does he also completely ignore any hadith that says the Dajjal will be blind in the left eye? Well, it seems that the Harry Potter movies are serving the same agenda as Imran Hosein. You see, Harry Potter himself represents a Western Dajjal, as he is born in the West, wears Western clothes, and interestingly, we also find that he is blinded in the right eye, just as Imran Hosein says the Dajjal will be. However, his enemy is, the enemy of Harry Potter is an Eastern Dajjal, wearing Eastern or Arabic clothes. The movie Harry Potter is obviously targeting non-Muslim Westerners, whereas Imran Hosein is targeting a Muslim audience. So the Harry Potter movies are trying to turn children in support of a Western Dajjal who will be blind in the right eye, but in order to gain the trust of Western children, the first Harry Potter movie pretends to be against an Eastern Dajjal. This is done to confuse the fitrah of Western children and gain their trust by first pretending that the movie is against the Dajjal, but then simultaneously telling them in support of Harry Potter, who is also a Dajjal. Likewise, Imran Hosein pretends to be against a Western Dajjal while encouraging Muslims to ignore any authentic Sahih Hadith about the Eastern Dajjal, even though only the Eastern Dajjals are mentioned in the Hadith, yet he ignores it. And we also see that Imran Hosein praises and supports Iran, and he says that Iran's opposition towards Israel and America and the West is actually real. So it's clear after this analysis that Imran Hosein wants us to become followers of the Shia Dajjal. This is why he tells us that the right eye is good and the left eye is evil. So that when a Western Dajjal rises with a blind right eye, his followers would think that that is the only Dajjal. But when the Eastern Dajjal rises with a blind left eye, as specifically prophesied in many ahadiths, Imran Hosein's followers would deny that he is the Dajjal, because they have been taught that the left eye is evil and the right eye is good. So being blind in the left eye, according to Imran Hosein, is a good thing. Aside from this, Imran Hosein also insists that the Dajjal may not be one-eyed at all, but that he could be metaphorically one-eyed.
What is blind is the heart, which is inside the chest. And so the heart can see. And so in addition to this eye, we also have this eye. Now it is possible for us to understand the hadith. Dajjal sees with one eye, his left eye. The left eye symbolizes his external capacity for sight. Dajjal is blind in the right eye, indicating that Dajjal is internally blind.
This is clearly another deception on his part to make his followers support the Dajjal when he appears, as it is stated clearly in the hadith that the Dajjal will be physically one-eyed, not metaphorically. In fact, the eye of Dajjal is described as looking like a floating grape in Sahih Muslim. So only an idiot or a liar would say that the Dajjal will not be physically one-eyed. And this shows the truly satanic agenda of Imran Hosein. So it is also interesting to note that in the Shia book Biharul Anwar, it is narrated from Mufazzal that when the Mahdi of the Shias rises, he will resurrect Abu Bakr and Omar and torture them. And then he would resurrect Fatima and Aisha, and he would torture Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, in order to make Fatima happy. Now remember that according to the hadith in Sunan Ibn Majah that we looked at earlier, the Dajjal will have two devils, and these two devils can take the form of human beings, through which he fools his followers into thinking that he can resurrect the dead. So it's very interesting that the Shia books state that the Mahdi will resurrect two dead people at a time, Abu Bakr and Omar, and then he will resurrect another two people, Aisha and Fatima, and then it says he will resurrect Imam Ali and the Prophet. So again, another two. Of course, the shayateen cannot take the form of the Prophet, peace be upon him. However,